We do have peer review now.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so you should see our Omega agency. I'm simply logged in. I've done nothing more than log into the agency. This is our fake city that we trained from. Obviously it says welcome Kelly. You see my initials in the upper right. I am the logged in user. I have my welcome screen essentially customized to open to my tasks. My tasks is a to-do list effectively for anything that's been assigned to you in the software across modules. Whether you're doing an infrastructure, aka public works engineering, whether you're doing an infrastructure review and building reviews on public works records, or possibly providing comment on even a planning application, you can be assigned things across modules, depending on, what the nature of your job is and where you work, what you do kind of thing, what your role is. My tasks, in short, is the to-do list. I just click to activate that page. I have things potentially assigned to me in workflow, which is the life cycle of the record from beginning to end, intake to final for public works. I might have inspections assigned to me. I might have actual electronic documents assigned to me. And lastly, I might have activities, any sort of activities assigned to me. Activities are kind of the administrative tasks that happen in and amongst the high-level workflow tasks that are required for the high-level process. For instance, I do an intake and then I do a plan review and then I issue something. Those are high-level workflow tasks. But in between, maybe during plan review, potentially I might have some sort of meeting with the developer on site. You can record these kinds of administrative things in the activities tabs on any record type in any module, and you can assign them. So hence the reason they're kind of on my task list. But no, just because it says my tasks, things that are assigned to me as a logged in user, I also have filters available to me to look at the data in our agency, period, assigned to me or not. I can look at assigned tasks in other modules or on in other record types. There are various, I'm not going through the filters here, but there are all kinds of things I can look at. Assigned work, unassigned work, inspection, inspection complete, all relating back to workflow, which again is the life cycle of the record, those high level tasks. These filters are in reference to anything that occurs or is measured by or coordinated through workflow. If I were to go to the inspection tab, I see filters that are about inspections. As a note, any filter preceded with the word my is about the logged in user. So if I said, show me my inspections, it would show me anything assigned to Kelly Marshall. I am the logged in user. Now, if Krista were to run the same filter, she would get things only assigned to herself, and so on and so on. Any filter preceded with the word my, again, about you as the logged in user. And they're everywhere, by the way. If I flip back to workflow and I get down kind of into the M's here, you can see my active tasks, all modules. Workflow tasks assigned to me irregardless of the module. You can see I have planning and public works and building and so on. Or my active tasks specific to the module that I'm currently preferred to. So let's talk about that briefly. As an opener, one very important thing you need to know about Acela is that none of the pages are interchangeable between modules. They don't have a module toggle, in other words. So every page that loads, excepting the record list, will load to your preferred module. And you might go, well, what's my preferred module? Of course. So under the launch pad here, the 9 squares, I had recommended at the top of all of our implementation training early on that you favorite a page called Preference Management. Now, for those of you who may not have participated in earlier training sessions, please look to your agency super user that's been participating in implementation from the beginning. for kind of some of the early baseline training. However, I will quickly review in order to set up favorites, which you should do from the launch pad here. You go to all pages. You bubble in the star for those pages that you wish to favorite. Once they've been favorited, they'll show up under the Your Pages tab. The pages we recommend everybody, all users favorite sets, is the record list, preference management, report pages for whatever module you'll be working in or you might need access to reports for. Could be multiple modules. And then these reference pages, the addresses for your jurisdiction, the parcels, the owners, and then we load all the licensed professional data. We load licensed professional data for all agencies globally that participate in e-permitting, which now is nearing 100. So e-permitting manages this page. Your agency provides us with address, parcels, and owners through a batch load process. So these pages that are favorited will ultimately include your local property data. Once favorited, then they show under your pages. To create a custom landing page or home page, you bubble in the house. So our recommendation is either My Tasks or the record list. These are the two most common and most meaningful homepage or landing pages that you should or could use ultimately. None of these would really suffice as kind of a landing page upon login. It would make sense that it's either your to-do list kind of functionality or it's the overall total record list for the entire agency. So I just clicked that page to open it so you can see what it looks like. It does take a minute or so to load the first time because it's a ton of data. You can see it spinning here. Here it is. It is a list of all of the records created in this agency. Remember, this is our fake city called Omega. We have 1,479 records currently showing. Notice this module toggle here, this drop down. This is where I can move between modules. This is the only page that Acela provides this module toggle for, unfortunately. So any other page that you favorited, any other page you favorited is looking at your preference, your preferred module. So that's kind of where I started here. So I'm going to go look at my preference management to see what it is. And it's currently set to building. So I am going to change it to Public Works. I do not have to fill in default console, by the way. And I submit to save my and I submit to save my preference. Change. I change from building to Public Works. Now any page I open is going to default to Public Works data. So if you are a person that will be working across modules, you need to get very familiar with the preference management toggle. This page will be a regular for you. When you need to focus and be working in Public Works on Public Works records, Public Works data, you will flip your preference to Public Works and submit. Now, 1 second, Eric, before I'm done with all of this, I need to hit the hard refresh button up here. I don't know if you can see me circling around. It looks like a little recycle arrow. For the entire browser, I need to do a hard refresh when I change my preference. Notice it closed all of the pages I had open over here because it did a hard refresh. Now, what I'm looking at should, oh, let me close my task too, by the way. Now, if I were to open the record list, notice it automatically defaults to Public Works. Yes, Eric.
Hey, thanks, Kelly. You probably mentioned this in another training, but if for example, the planning department has a sign off that's required by the engineering department, does the engineering department have to log into the planning module in order to do that review and sign off, or is it going to be sent to them within the Public Works module? Thinking like we do final site plan approval where we want to make sure the final site plan is consistent with the public improvement plans that they're reviewing, stuff like that.
If you assign something in the Public Works workflow, which we'll get to in this training, if you assign a review task on a public or that's inside of a Public Works record to a planning staff person, they will see it in their task list, in their My Tasks, in their assigned tasks. We highly recommend as best practice and to really leverage the software that you do that you indeed do that you assign things to users so that work can ultimately be tracked. You can see from the date it was assigned till how long it took to get signed off or first review. If you're not assigning things, you start losing a lot of those tracking mechanisms that are available to you that you can take advantage of. So if I do assign a review on a Public Works record to a planning person, yes, they can access that Public Works record and do that, review any of the documents on the record, say electronic plans or an attached site plan document, and they can do any sort of sign off that you request of them.
And that's within the planning module.
Within planning, no, if you're assigning something to them on a Public Works application, they can see that record and they can sign that task off on the Public Works record if you've assigned it to them. Keeping in mind that you have to have provided them on your user submittal, you have to have provided them rights to the module. So for Public Works, if there are 3 planners, let's say, that do that site plan review that you talked about, Eric, on Public Works applications, you need to make sure those 3 planners have user access to the Public Works module. First and foremost, they have to have access to the module, baseline access through their user. So on your user submittal forms, please make sure that any employees that need to do crossover work in other modules other than their own module, that you also grant them user rights in each of those subsequent modules. So first, that kind of precedes everything. They at least have to have access to the module or they won't even be able to see it. 1. 2, if you're signing things on a Public Works record to a planning employee, yes, they'll be able to see it in their task list. And vice versa. If planning is assigning a planning thing to a Public Works staff person, then yes, the Public Works staff person can see it and can participate in the workflow.
Do they need to sign out and sign back in?
No.
Okay, so they can do it. As long as they have the module assigned, it's sort of one interface.
Yes,
Gotcha.
100%.
That was my question. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
it is
you.
one total Sherwood.
Yeah,
All the
perfect.
modules together, assuming you've provided, employees that cross over, privileged user rights, then they'll be able to see the other modules and participate in other record types and assignments. Yes,
Yeah, great. Thanks.
you bet. And this preference management is somewhat key to that. This is where you could toggle between modules for your tasks, for your assigned tasks. However, the record list allows you this nice, easy, just flip the script, right? I can flip from Public Works to, planning. And now I'm seeing planning records and so on, assuming I've been provided user rights to see those modules and participate in some level. I can see the different modules in this dropdown. But the record list, unfortunately, is the only place Acela gives us this nice, easy dropdown. In all the other pages, they don't. And so all the other pages are looking at preference management to determine what information they provide to you. Okay, so first and foremost, you have to set your preference to Public Works. And anytime you change your preference and save your change, you have to do a hard refresh up here in your browser. Chrome and Edge both have this exact same little recycle looking icon in the upper left. And yes, indeed, it will automatically close any pages or records or anything you had open because it's doing a hard refresh. That's the only way the system picks up this change, is to force it to refresh your agency. Okay, so that's, I mean, I just can't even tell you, it seems like a small thing, but it is so important to being able to move between modules and see data successfully. Now, quick note, we do not recommend, forgive me, we do not recommend using this task card view. It's this upper left icon. It's what you're seeing in front of you right now. These task cards and load more. And I have, let me see, what does it say? I have 96 of these puppies. I could go rows on rows on rows. It's very difficult to work from. It's overwhelming. This particular view, upper left corner, all of the filters are commingled. So now you don't know what's a workflow filter from an inspection filter, from an activities filter, and so on. You have to be a little bit more expert or have more expertise in the software before this starts to kind of gel, because it's pretty much junked everything together in a big glob. So highly recommend, do not use this upper left view. Instead, use my tasks or the record list, and whichever one you favorite as your custom landing page, the little house, will be, when you log in, will be displayed. It won't even display this view anymore, not unless you purposefully pick it. Instead, the system will default to wherever you've put the little house icon as your landing page. Okay, so first things first, a little bit of housekeeping there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start a Public Works application. I can either create a new record directly from the Launchpad. However, if I have the record list open, which you probably have open all day, every single day, because this is where you see all the Public Works records. From oldest to newest, the newest record would be the very top one in the row. What was I just going to say? Oh, I can create new from here. Excuse me, lost my train of thought for a second. So Launchpad new record, or if I have the record list already open and I'm sitting here, there's a new button here as well. Same. So I'm going to kick off a new Public Works application. I go to Public Works. You have 4 record types available to you. The tracking record is the permit application record type. The inquiry record is a bare bones information only record type for those things that aren't permit related or permit oriented that maybe you need to log and track, including customer inquiries, hence how it got its name. The investigation record is work without permits or over scope or without the appropriate approval, etc. This record allows you to document that field investigation potentially as somebody without permits, over scope, that kind of thing. And then, of course, requiring them to purchase a permit and get the appropriate approvals. The project record is an information-only record type. It functions as an umbrella record, and it is exactly what it says it is. We learned when we developed this module with 3 cities and 2 counties is that a lot of times Public Works work is project-oriented. Capital improvement projects or what transportation projects, whatever the case might be. And there's a lot of information. It's heavy on information at the project level. So you can create a Public Works project record strictly as an informational kind of bucket on the whole project. Project accounting, you can attach, various resolutions or city council documents or, what project plans, whatever the case might be. But this is not a permit. It functions strictly as a kind of information holder for the project. And then as permits come in on the project, you create tracking records and you can relate them to the project. So over time, let's say you're going to replace, all of the water, I don't know, water meters or something to this effect, or, some sort of project related to curbs or sidewalks, improvements or something. And you can create the overall project record. And then as the individual sidewalk permits or curb cut permits come in, you can create the permit records and attach them to the larger project. So then historically, say a year or two from now, when this project is long done, You can look historically at the project record with all the high-level information, and through the related record tab on the project record, you'll be able to see all of the attached permits. It's an option. You don't ever have to use it if you never have a business case for it, but if you do, it is available to you. I'm going to kick off the tracking record. I'm going to start my application. You cannot apply for Public Works online. They have to apply through your office directly. So they have to come into your office, or if you accept mail-in paper applications or faxed in stuff or emailed in stuff, that of course is certainly up to you, but the application has to start directly with your staff. Once the application is initiated and a record is created in the system, then the applicant can interface with this record online for every other thing they need to do. They can track the status, they can see the workflow and plan review information that you might be recording, they can upload and download documents, and they can pay fees. And they can schedule inspections. Should you choose that, you have received a submittal form for that. The applicant is unable to apply online, Eric, because currently the Acela out-of-the-box product is explicitly address-based. And Public Works records and planning records are parcel-based. And because you might need to, in Public Works and in planning, a lot of the time, a lot of the things that people are applying for are on undeveloped parcels or relate to undeveloped parcels. So out of the box, Acela only provides online an address-based framework. However, we are in the process of developing a workaround or a direct methodology for ourselves independently for state of Oregon. So online application is coming, but it's not there today. So I just want to make sure that it's very clear that they cannot initiate an application online, but after the record is started by staff, the customer then can interact with you electronically through the website in every other aspect.
Gotcha. Thanks, Kelly.
You bet. Okay. So notice this light blue-gray banners. These are kind of really important, especially when you're brand new, is paying attention to what they say. A section that is required or not required. Notice the parcel section is required. A parcel is required to create a new application. An address is not required to create an application. Now, that doesn't mean you can't add an address if this job has to do or is, around an address or about an address. Addresses are only on structures, right? Parcels might be undeveloped. They might not have an address, but every parcel has an owner. So the owner section is required. So these light blue-gray banners give you a lot of important guidance when you're new to the system. So project name is optional. Oh, let me back myself up. A red star means something is required. Now, a red star within a section that is not required, see the red star here for street number and for street name. If the section isn't required, the section is not required. But if you start to fill in the section, if you elect to use it, meaning an address might apply in this case, in this application, then the street number and street name would be required, but only if I elected to fill in this section. So don't let the little red stars throw you off. If the section is not required, neither are these two fields up and unless you use the address. Okay, starting from the top, project name. Project name is ever important for Public Works and Planning, and I'm just going to kind of mention some times where planning is similar to this, just in case any of you work across modules. The project name is super important in Public Works and Planning because there is only one single record type that houses all of your application types, and it's called Public Works Tracking, and in Planning it's called Planning Tracking. And for that reason, every record that's created, here I'm just going to minimize my intake form, is Public Works Tracking. Public Works Tracking, Public Works Tracking. You can see right here. It doesn't say right of way or sidewalks or stormwater permit or easement. It doesn't say that. But we include the project name field on the record list. In the record list view. The record list is a high-level view of all of the record details from left to right. Lots of information here, the actual record number itself, which we have an e-permitting required format here. The record type, the project name, the description of work, scope of work, the address information, parcels lead because Public Works is parcel based. The address, the address information right here, the city, the status of the record as of right now. If it has any related records, I'll talk about that briefly later on. What date the record was created on, what date it is tentatively set to expire. By the way, you get to define this. If it has a fee balance, who the owner is, and what staff person in your agency created that record. Okay, just going to go back real quick, back here to my application form. By the way, these are windows, so you can move between an intake form and back to the base application and so on. Project name, back to this. So we highly recommend that in Public Works and in planning that you include the application type in the project name. I'm going to just say this is a right-of-way application. I'm going to say here that it's work in the right of way to replace a water main and be 3,000. I'm just totally making things up, but you get the idea. Description of work. I put the application type here. Now, before I get too far on that and before you panic too much, the application types are customized by your agency. I sent a submittal attached to this meeting request that includes all the customization pieces for you to fill in and to return. I happen to be the direct project manager for the Sherwood agency, Eric, so I'll be the one on the receiving end of that. But for any of your agencies, Krista and Stacy are also project managers. You probably know already here, signed project manager is I'm City of Ontario. They're not doing Public Works, and I'm Sherwood. So, and the other project manager will assist you accordingly if you're with the other 4 agencies. But nonetheless, a submittal form was sent out for you to customize the application types you want to issue through the Public Works module. Now, the Public Works module, just to be really clear, is about development services. It isn't utility billing. It will never be utility billing. We have some agencies, your fees cross over a little bit into the utility side, some of that kind of stuff, meters and hydrants and a few things. And we might connect with you if any of your fees cause us any questions about that, just to clarify, so we can make sure that they are going to be things you are going to specifically permit through our Public Works module. I'm gonna, in my example here, I'm gonna pretend the customer needs a right-of-way permit. They're doing work in the right-of-way to replace a water main in the 3,000 block of Main Street. I can immediately assign this record to a Public Works person. So if you want to work kind of under the premise of assigning a record to a responsible staff, to a person that's responsible, going to be the responsible party. So in building, that just isn't part of their process. There are so many people that participate in the building process. However, in Public Works and Planning and in code, we have heard that there is somewhat of a direct relationship to kind of a planner of record or the engineer at your agency, or some specific assignments where this application is going to be Eric's responsibility, so to speak. And I would go in here and select the Public Works Department, and then I would go in here and select Eric's name, and I could directly assign this record to him as kind of the person responsible for overall process of this record. If that isn't kind of how you do business in Public Works, especially since this module crosses over different service areas, sidewalk, driveway, curb cut, right-of-way easement, stormwater, and erosion and sediment control, that could be a whole variety of folks that, specialize in those different pieces. It might not make sense at all to assign records to individual staff people. And if not, then you just skip past this. A parcel is up next. This section is required. I have to have a parcel to kick off a record. I have to. And so I would enter a parcel number I'm just made, this is our fake Omega City, and I have to search for it because it has to be validated against our agency's parcel data that you guys have already, all your agencies have already provided us all your property data. And in that way, we are searching to match this parcel against the parcel data you provided for your agency. And so I can see that there is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which does match these. But it isn't, the complete string. Obviously, you're doing some searching. This is all just fake, training data. And I would go, oh, there it is. That is the parcel. It's 123 Southeast Main Street. I want to make sure that everything, oops, sorry. Yeah, I want to make sure that everything is, the right address associated to it, because in this case, the parcel I searched for, I might only search for part of the number. By the way, you can search for part of the number. You can do a partial search. A lot of parcels start in a certain way, 12BE. Oops, I started typing. Sorry, let me close this. Started typing over myself here. Maybe your parcel format, starts like that. And I can search for just the beginning string. These are about, by the way, this is just our test agency stuff. You're not going to see this information at all. But you can search for a portion, the beginning portion of the parcel, or you can search for the end portion of the parcel. The lot number. You have to use a percent to search for parts of things. If I put in this is searching the beginning of the parcel number because there's no percent in front of the 12. There's only a percent after. So what this search is saying, it must start with 12BE, anything else. If I do a percent and then I do 1602 and no percent at the end, this search says anything can be before 1602, but nothing can be after the 2. Unless I did that. Then it's a contains search, anything before 1602, anything after 1602. Smart searching. This will become your friend in Acela, particularly around property data, making sure that you're finding, the information that you're looking for, and that you're not creating duplicate information, or you find yourself unable to create an application because you didn't search correctly and you can't validate the parcel number. Now, I'm going to close out of this again. We, in public works in particular, we can create, and planning and code, just so you know, we can create things called named parcels or temp parcels. We used to call them temp parcels. Now the label is changed somewhat. It's called a named parcel. What it is it's a parcel number that we actually create on your behalf, like this. So there is a parcel actually called ROW in the system, and the owner is the city. Because a lot of times, right away doesn't have a parcel number. It isn't numbered. So what if somebody is coming in to do some work in the right of way? Or what if code compliance needs to, what if there's a complaint about camping on a highway on-ramp, off-ramp? That's in the right of way. Graffiti in the right of way, illegal camping in the right of way. Code really needs named parcels because they do often a lot of compliance work around violations that might occur in the right of way. Those are very much more common these days. And so these named parcels are not really part of your property data load. They're things that the e-permitting team creates on your behalf. You do have a submittal form that was sent around this. You have an informational document called named parcels, and then you have a temp parcel submittal form that corresponds with that informational document. And that is these named parcels where there will not be an actual parcel number, but where you're going to have to do some permitting potentially. And you could even get more granular with these. You could do right away. water, right of way. I'm just kind of making stuff up here. We have some agencies that do, that are really, really specific with these. Marion County is probably our highest used public works agency. Look at this, 21,000 records. They are on fire. They do extremely high volume. And I just want to show you that in their parcels in Marion County, waiting for it to load. I went to Launchpad and I just went directly to their parcel page, which I recommended at the top of the meeting that you favorite. And I'm going to search for right away. So they have these. They have right away event parcel, named parcel. They have right away general, right away utility, and right away various. General and various, I don't know how they're different, but they do. The only reason that they've broken these down is so they can actually report on them separately. If you want to use generic, just right of way as a named parcel and tuck all the right of way permits up under that, that's fine too. However, if you want to get a little smarter about breaking the data down and being able to report on it separately, you could create different right of way parcels. Okay, I'm going to drag Marion County off. I just wanted to demo Marion County, and I'll be bouncing back and forth between them. I'm going to go ahead and run with my numbered parcel here, and I need to search for that. Oops, I think I hit the enter. Oh, there. I was going to say, I think I hit the enter button, forgot some. I'm going to choose my Main Street address. And remember that a parcel can have multiple addresses. Okay, right? I mean, we know that. A large parcel could have multiple, it could be a strip mall, and it could have multiple suite numbers or unit numbers, or could be an apartment building, could be a manufactured dwelling park, or the new cool slick RV parks that are coming up everywhere, and so on, right? A parcel can be one to many, and vice versa. An address can have more than one parcel in some cases. I have seen it. It seems a little backwards to me, but I've seen it. So just note that you may be picking, amongst multiple addresses. Once you locate the verified address and parcel, in this case, mine had an address. So it says, okay, so you pick that parcel number. What address on that parcel do you want to attach to your application? And this is the one, and this is the owner. Oh, these are both the owners because the parcel is owned by two people, and we know that happens a lot as well. A parcel can be owned by multiple people. It could be owned by a trust and a person, could be owned by a husband and a wife, or a family and their kids. There's just gobs and gobs of relationships around ownership and parcels, right? So just note that I picked the parcel I wanted, and by picking the parcel, then it says, okay, there are 4 addresses attached to the parcel you selected. Which one is the one you want to create the application for? So I selected it, and then I selected both the owners, because I can effectively, if this parcel has addresses and owners associated to it, I can grab all this information in one fell swoop. It immediately dropped in all of the information in the background here into my application form. It dropped in the parcel, it dropped in the address, and it dropped in the owners, all in one fell swoop. It also brought up some information saying, hey, by the way, that parcel you have has some conditions on it. Conditions is important information that you should make yourself familiar with. If you create an application that has conditions, those are information about the parcel that you need to be aware of. These are just fake. It says it's in the historic district. It is a notice condition, which means that it's just an FYI. It's just telling me, hey, by the way, you should know that this parcel's in a historic district, which might impact your decision in approving permits for it, or in the work that you approve for them to do, or so on. Parcel conditions can be created from your property data. They're just FYI, unless one comes up and it says it's a lock, there could potentially be a lock on a parcel. I don't want to get too far into that, but let's say code compliance has a major issue with the property owner on this property because they keep allowing illegal camping, and now there's raw sewage and garbage and all kinds of other stuff. Code compliance might put a lock condition on this parcel, not allowing any new permits to come in on it up and until the code compliance case is resolved. A lock condition will be clearly noted as a lock here in the severity column, and it will not allow you to submit the application. Losing my X's there. If I were come down here and say submit, it would bark at me and say there's a lock condition, and it will not allow me to create the record. So I have just searched for the parcel. It has to be validated, by the way. I can't just free type it in and move on. I have to search and validate it to my agency's property data. And on that note, I can add a second parcel. So I can do a second search, and I can add a second parcel, by the way. You can add multiple parcels to an application, both in Public Works, well, in any module, frankly, in any module. If it's appropriate that 2 parcels are involved in this, then put both parcels. And you'll go through the same exercise. You'll search for the second parcel. It'll bring up any matches potentially. Don't forget that smart searching with the % symbol. That's the wild card in Acela for searching. Find the second parcel. If it has an address, and of course it will have an owner, but if it also has an address attached to it, you can pull it in all at once, and it will drop in the second parcel, second address, and the other owners. Okay, so parcel though minimally required. So if this parcel had not had any address structure on it, then it would not have brought up any sort of address, but it would have brought up the owners of the parcel, and I would also need to include them in my application. Bare bones, kind of the minimum stuff. An applicant is minimally required. So I can use these quick buttons. I could say if the owner is acting as the applicant or a licensed professional. Well, wait a second. I haven't put a licensed professional on this record yet. So if I were to say is licensed professional, there's nothing filled in. Incidentally, licensed professional is scrolled down here. It's right here. This section isn't required. We do not require licensed professionals in public works and planning because we understand that sometimes a licensed professional isn't involved in the project. They're not involved in the application. Keeping in mind that licensed professionals does include architects and engineers, however. They are licensed professionals. So if an application is being submitted by an architect or engineer, you can pull up their architect license or their engineering license, and you can add them to the record as a licensed professional. And subsequently, once you add them as a licensed professional, then you can scroll back up here and make them the applicant as well, if that's appropriate. Now, if the licensed professional is acting as the applicant on a public works record, it's my recommendation you skip the applicant section and just scroll down 2 more sections, fill in the licensed professional. By the way, a licensed professional has to be searched. You can't just free type their information in. If you remember the pages I mentioned that you favorite in the Launchpad are addresses, parcels, owners, because your agency has provided us all of your property data as per your GIS or your tax assessor, etc. And we populate all the licensed professional data. We populate CCB and BCD electrical and plumbing professional licenses every single night. We load an update in the middle of the night, automated process. And then about once a month, we upload landscape architects, engineers, all the on-site type licensed folks, manufactured dwelling installers, qualified persons, there's, you name it. There's a whole gamut of different licensed professionals that we load. Now, we don't own that data. That's an important thing for you to know. The licensing body that does the license sends us that data and we load it for them. So we get engineering license data from OSBILS, from the Oregon Engineers Group, and architects and so on. So if you add a license, for instance, and the mailing address on that licensed professional is not current, and they say, oh man, that's not my address, that address is super old. Well, they need to get in touch with the engineers, with Osbeals, and they need to update their license information to the current address or whatever. All we're doing is loading what Osbeals sent us, for example. So if any of the information about a licensed professional is not current or correct, that licensed professional needs to go back and update it with the licensing body that owns that information. The architects board, engineering, landscape professionals, whatever. Okay, I'm going to go back to my intake form. If a licensed professional, again, is acting as applicant, my recommendation is you scroll down 2 sections and you add the licensed professional. First, by searching against that licensed professional page I just showed you, find a match, and then come back up here and use the as licensed professional to also make them the applicant. In this case, however, I'm going to say as owner. It grabbed the owner information, the first listed owner, by the way, if there's more than one owner, and it dropped in all of Tim Hauser's information. Please note, phone number is minimally required, and it is rarely to never provided through property data. The tax assessor and your GIS program don't care about phone numbers. For people, they don't care to be in the business of maintaining phone number or email information for property owners. And that's because that's not really the business they're in. They need a mailing address to mail you your tax bill, right? They keep track of where you live. They want your mailing address, but they don't really track phone numbers or emails. So a lot of times if you are pulling in the owner, they will not have, let's just fake this here, they will not have an email or a phone number. And minimally, a phone number is required. This is the most commonly missed required field on intake forms. People go to submit and it won't submit. And they're like, Kelly, I don't know what's wrong. It won't submit. Just keep saying I'm missing something. 9 times out of 10, it's the phone number for the applicant. So note that. Email, while we can't require it yet, gosh, I hope someday we can, but while we can't require it, email is key to system functionality. You can send emails out of the software to the applicants or owners or the licensed professionals, any of the people attached to the record, as long as you've collected an email for them in all kinds of capacities. You can send them inspection results. You can send them information from plan review. You can send them letters about documents. You name it. You can send them the permit. Once you issue the permit, you can send them a certificate of satisfactory completion, which is similar to a C of O like in the building world. In public works, at the end of a project, you issue something called a certificate of satisfactory completion, which is kind of the official finalizing report or document that you can provide to the applicant or to the owner of record. All of those kinds of things can be emailed from directly inside the software, saving you, postage, supplies, envelopes, postage, phone calls, emails outside of the system, you name it, saves you yards and yards of time. So there, I did my spiel. Collect email. I'm going to put my email on this one just so while we're working on a few things, if we want to email something out, I can actually demonstrate it to you. So I'm going to put my email for the applicant. You additionally, not required section, but you additionally have the option for an agent for applicant. A lot of times this person is like I see agencies that do fill this in. It's usually like a project manager for the contractor, or, where it's contractor related. Or, more of a local contact. Maybe it's a huge firm, development or architect firm, and it's an individual person that's going to be your primary contact. If you want to record any other secondary person on the record, you are able to do so. This, just as a contact, does not have to be searched. It's free typed. Kirsten.
I'm assuming that you can come back and add that information at some point if you feel like it's necessary once the permit has been created.
Absolutely. Good question. anything that says it's required just to create the app, I minimally have to fill in, or I can't even create a record. Anything that says not required can be filled in post intake. Good question. So if it comes around like after we create this application that I am kind of, you know, they're feeding me information from a specific person and they say, hey, we'd really like you to just keep working with Tim, you know, for the life of the project or whatever is your primary contact for us or whatever, then you can, yes, you can add multiples of additional contact types to the record. Anybody from tenants to complainants, you name it. There are all kinds of contact people you can add to records. Good question. Professionals, not required, but I can, as we've talked about, add any kind of licensed person. All of the license with parentheses are through BCD. So just kind of a little tip and learning point here, teaching moment. Any of these with parentheses are coming out of building codes. Electrical and plumbing is what these are. And boiler, you can see boiler because we do the boiler licensing as well. CCB is a separate entity from BCD. A lot of people don't know that, but it is. Architects, you got DEQ, installers, and that's on-site related or septic. We have engineers. Any of those without parentheses are licenses that are not coming out of building codes that we are getting from outside parties. Installers, pump landscape contractors. You kind of look in between here. Oh, forgive me. Excuse me. The owner can act as their own contractor. I don't know if that is of great importance in public works. In building, it's paramount. In building, if the owner is acting as their own contractor, when and where they're allowed by the building code to do so, they actually have to sign a contractor responsibilities form from CCB. That has to be on record as per rule. So in building, the owner acting as their own contractor is the reason that you see owner here in the professional section. I don't know, again, if that has a lot of weight or merit in public works or not. But if you wanted to or needed to note the owner acting as their own contractor in a public works aspect, you are welcome to do so. All right, then we get into the meat and potatoes here. We get into the actual public works application information. You might look at this and go, what in the world? There's nothing here. And so to that, I'm going to tell you, when we worked with the 5 agencies, the 3 cities and 2 counties, when we developed this module many years ago, we were told that a lot of times public works intake is very minimal, that applicants don't come with all of the information right at the time necessarily that they're applying. They might have just the beginning of information to get the project started, but they don't have everything. And so we asked, what would be the bare minimum where you would create a record? And so from top to bottom, scrolling fast here, obviously I have to have a description of work. I need to know what in the world you're applying to do. I need to know where, parcel, minimum of a parcel, and the owner, because every parcel has an owner. I minimally have to have one contact person, which is the applicant of record. So far we've done the who, what, where, why, when kind of thing, right? Who's involved, the people, where's all the property data, what is the description of work, right? If I want to attach any more people, great. Professionals, agents for applicants, I can do so. Other than that, you have a very small amount of information you have to fill in just to get a record going, created. Once a public works application is created, there is a volume of more information added to the record once it's created post intake that you can record or collect or whatever, but would not be required just to get a record started. So now we're moving to our agenda item of service areas. We call these service areas, these 4 check boxes. These are kind of the core service areas that we provide for in this public works module. Right away, in erosion and sediment control, aka site development, grade and fill, driveway, sidewalk, curb cut, and stormwater. One of these 4 service areas minimally must be checked in order to kick off a new application. So in this case, and of course you would check what applies. You can check one or you can check all. If all of these service areas apply to this particular permit, then I can check all 4. Say for instance, new construction, all 4 maybe, I don't know, or at least 3 of the 4. And if it's only one of them, then it's only one of them. In this case, in my fake example, I'm just asking for a right-of-way permit. I can, and this is required section here. I need to select the app type. This is the list you get to customize. These are just fake placeholders in my fake city. Easement, public use and vacation, erosion, sediment control, grade, fill, site dev, public improvement permit, public works permit, residential permit. Notice that. So I want to present to you for serious consideration offline in all of your agencies. If you're participating in the building process, providing in building on the building record, the public works review is called infrastructure review. So just note that it's public works engineering. That's your review task available on the building record. When there is new construction happening in building and a building permit is created, a lot of times infrastructure, aka public works and engineering, is going to be invoked. You're going to be asked to do a review on that new construction. Now, if it's new residential construction, they have driveways, sidewalks, curb cuts. They might have some road things. I've seen that. They might grade and fill, at the pre-construction. They might need right of way depending on, how the work's happening, where it's taking place, if it's in the downtown core or it's out in the country, I don't know. You guys are the experts. I am not an expert in public works. But ultimately, you might want to decide if you want to require a public works permit in addition to the building permit for new construction. We probably have about 30% of our agencies that do, because they feel like, yes, while they participate in the building record, they do review over there and they sign things off over there, and they can put a condition of approval specific to public works for completion over there. So you can communicate what you are explicitly approving on the building record for public works in a condition of approval on the building record. Some agencies still feel like that's not enough. They want a corresponding record for new construction in the public works module as well, where you can record all of your work and information for that related to that new construction, around the grade and fill, around the driveway, sidewalk, curb cut construction. If there's any stormwater implications, you can record your details in a public works record. So as an example, when we first started this module, the agency we first started with did have a residential permit for new residential, that anytime a new building residential, new construction building residential permit was pulled, the applicant was also required to pull a residential permit in public works. And then commercial, there was new commercial building permit pulled in building. They also required a public works permit for new commercial construction in public works. Now, do you have to do that? Absolutely not. But I also want to let you know that this application type list is customizable to you today. And what I mean by that is you might have 3 application types today, but you've always wanted to have these other 3 as well. If you could, like in a perfect world, have 3 more application types, like break down your right-of-way application into right-of-way event versus right-of-way utility, like for instance, like the named parcels I showed you. Maybe you want a separate application for all 4 of those, because it allows you to report smarter. It allows you more granular data. It allows you to more easily count things that you're doing in a more specific way, right? And so now is your opportunity, I might add, to maybe add some new application types that you never had before that you felt like you always needed, one. And two, just adding new things that you never got to actually permit for before. So, and what I mean by that is we have a lot of agencies now in planning, because planning also has a customizable app type list. They're requesting new application types around marijuana operations, marijuana growth operations, because in a lot of agencies that has a very specific and strict planning and zoning approval. And so they're adding, a lot of agencies are submitting help desk tickets and saying, hey, we need to add some new application types to planning for marijuana growth operations or licensing or whatever you want to call it. So note that this app type list is not written in stone. You can start with your current application list, and over time, if you find you need to add a new application type, you just submit a help desk ticket. Or if you need to retire one, maybe you decide that Public Works Improvement Permit, you're going to break it into two separate, I'm just making things up. You're going to break into two separate permits now. So, hey, Kelly, submit a help desk ticket. We're going to retire Public Works Improvement Permit application type, and we're going to add these two new ones. Okay, great. We will do that for you. But I just wanted to kind of put a bug in your ear that this is the time now to maybe, you know, break apart some of your application types. Like, for instance, you see right away here, access, hard surface approach, sewer repair, sidewalk, utility. Maybe before you only had a single right away, just general. It wasn't broken out into the 4 types. Maybe now you can break it out into the 4 types because it allows you to do smarter reporting, right? Instead of having to export all the right-of-way data and go through by hand and figure out what each one is for and putting them in separate buckets using Excel and all this extra work, right? So just a note on that, I have to pick an application type. It's required. Again, you get to customize that. You can indicate electively if it's public or private. You can, if applicable, say if there's a type of structure involved. This is not customizable, this is model. I can also indicate if there's separate accessory building. Now, these might only apply to certain kinds of applications. So ignore them if they don't apply. The type of project, construction, improvement, or other. The type of work, these are model, meaning not customizable. These are the values that you get when you get this module. If these apply and you feel like it would be good data for you to record and report on, then record it. If it applies, this is a right of way, construction in the right of way. This last one says detailed project purpose or description. Notice it's required. So a lot of people are like, this confuses folks because they're like, I put it right here. I put it right there in the description of work. Well, I'm going to tell you, you can Control-C to paste that, and you can whip down here to the bottom, and you can Control-V to paste it in here. The system doesn't care if it's the same description. It also doesn't care if you just write in right away without any detailed description. It doesn't care what you put in here, but I'm going to tell you why there's 2. So the description of work field is kind of at the high level. This is a right-of-way, maybe a right-of-way construction permit. The detailed project description field, I usually see people putting in like, you know, it's 10,002 linear, oops, I'm not gonna get my caps off. Linear, you know, feet, asphalt repair involved. I'm just being silly here, but I see a lot more kind of granular little, you know, the little minutia kind of, I usually see those here in the second detailed purpose field. Maybe what the forgive me, what the surface material is, what the company is, what they're doing, why they're blocking the road, blah, 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 you know, whatever. And again, it doesn't validate or care what you've put here, so you could just copy and paste, or you could just put in the application type again. I see some people do that. It's up to you. It's totally up to you. It's free text field. You can put in here what you want, but there has to be at least one letter to meet the required star. Lastly, you have the option to allow inspections prior to permit issuance. Right out of the gate at intake, if this is a certain kind of permit or record where it might be appropriate to allow them to schedule inspections prior to issuing it, you can immediately allow that. If not, don't check it. Time tracking, I'm going to skip this for now. Time tracking, we also heard in Public Works and planning that because it's project oriented a lot of the time, that you have to record and track your time to the project. So you have the opportunity at intake and for the life of the record, post intake, to record your time. So I'm going to say I put a quarter of an hour to today. Oops, I don't know why I picked that date. Sorry, hold on. It's waiting the widget to open there. It automatically drops in today's date and me as the logged in user. I need to say what I spent my time on. This is a model provided list. It's not customizable. It's administrative. I could put in the project account and then I could just say, you know, intake, whatever I'm spending my 15 minutes on. I can add another row and put in another quarter of an hour today on, you know, I could say process and review also to the account, to the project account, and saying, you know, review over the counter of intake materials. You know, whatever is appropriate, whatever makes sense. You don't have to use time tracking. You certainly don't have to use it at intake. It's available to you for the life of the record, and you could choose to not use it at all. It's up to you. But if you're an agency that needs to track your time to a specific project account, then you have the opportunity to do so. Floodplain's the last one. If this record is about anything related to in a parcel in the floodplain or is actually related to floodplain, you can add a row to add all of these floodplain details. The base floodplain elevation, the benchmark elevation, any description, if it's fill, if it's flood fringe, if it's floodway, if it's an improvement to an existing structure, new construction, other residential, the actual floodplain or special flood hazard area. These come from National Floodplain. Step backwater analysis required. Yes, you know, checkbox. Value of the existing structure, value of proposed improvement, and then if it requires water course alteration. You can choose to tack this information. I'm going to just delete this row. By the way, if you add a row and then you don't want it, check box it to remove it. And if I didn't mean to add this here, I could delete it and so on. Now, where do you, I'm asking kind of all six at once here. Do any of you, does your public works engineering department issue floodplain permits? No? Okay. So if any of your agencies issue floodplain permits out of public works, very clearly you would want to fill in this information. You would want to also include floodplain permit as one of your custom application types. The same would be the case if your planning department issues floodplain permits and you want to do that through a SELA. You can issue a development permit out of the planning module. Again, you would need to include floodplain permit in the custom application type dropdown, and it has this exact same information available to you. I just want to make sure everybody knows how to document floodplain information, where the parcel in this record or, you know, subject or associated to this application might be in the floodplain. If I want to report floodplain information, because we do have a floodplain report, standard report, then I would fill in this information if I needed to or wanted to record this kind of information and ultimately report on it. Lastly, I can attach an electronic document right here at intake. So if they emailed something in, I can attach the documents that were in the email directly to the record right here through at intake. However, I often tell people just wait to attach the documents till after you create the record. As soon as I create this record, I'll have a record with the documents tab and I can attach documents there kind of cohesively all at once. I could do it here, yes, but you can also do it post intake, and I think it's a little easier post intake. I'm going to go ahead and submit my application to get it created. Now, if I missed anything, it's going to yell at me and tell me that I missed something. If I didn't miss something, it's going to take a second. It's going to create a new record, which it has done. Once it's created the new record, it will ask me, right at intake, are there any inspections you want to prepend to the record right at intake? Based on, I know what kind of application it is. It's a right-of-way application. Are there any inspections I want to post to this permit as pending now? Please note that a pending inspection is just a suggestion. It is not a requirement. So, and what I mean by that is I could pend a right-of-way inspection. I think there's some in here. By the way, Public Works has the most inspection types available. There's all kinds of inspections in here. So if we haven't already, we'll be sending the inspection brochure out to all agencies. I believe we already have. But the inspection brochure has a list of all of these inspection types, and I recommend that all users of the system get a hold of a copy of that brochure just to have available so you can learn what the different inspection types are. Do you have to memorize it or learn it or anything? No, absolutely you do not. But I just think it is good for you to know kind of what's available if you're participating in that module. I thought I had some driveway and approach, shoulder repair, pavement. There's an encroachment, franchise, utility repairs, decommission utilities. Holy moly. I wasn't kidding. See how many inspections there are? I thought, oh, there's final right away. I can add the final right away to this record type. If that's going to be an inspection, I want to suggest to the applicant that they schedule. So I select it. I use the single arrow to bring it over to the selected box. But please note that hold on, where'd it go? That final PW 9995, notice the final right of way is 9999. That final Public Works inspection is the one that upon sign off will automatically close the record for you. Final right of way will not do that. Only inspection number 9995, final right of way, if scheduled and signed off, aka approved. If scheduled and approved on a Public Works record type, it will automatically close the record upon approval, which is a huge time savings for your agencies. Saves you a lot of extra workflow time for the system to automate that. For if I'm going to go ahead and select, say now I go, oh, well, I don't want final right away on there. Final PW will be fine for us. I can select it and take it back using the reverse arrow. Or I can pen nothing at all and cancel out of this screen. So there's that as well. I'm going to choose my final PW. By the way, I believe in our configuration, we do this automatically. We pen this automatically to the record. But I'll have to confirm that. I don't know, Chris or Stacy, if one of you can confirm that. It's available in auto pens.
I will take a look here just a second.
Thank you so much. Because it's super important. You know, we might automatically, if it's there, we automatically configure this to appear on all your Public Works records for you on your behalf. Which means it's already going to be there. You don't have to do any selecting here, and you can simply cancel out of that pending. Now, it drops me back to my home screen, I need to go back to my record list. I need to refresh it to see my new record right here at the top. And I have to refresh it because records are going to be continually being created by your coworkers, maybe by your front counter tech staff, maybe by, the customers are going to be interacting with records online once you create a new application. And so there's going to be a lot of activity. You have to regularly refresh the record list. I'm just telling you right now, it's an Acela thing. They do not refresh automatically very frequently. It's kind of one of our little gripes. And so you need to manually kind of force things to refresh on a regular basis. And it's the same case in every page. Things can't come on or off certain lists as they get completed. If I'm looking at active assigned transportation tasks and Kelly goes in there and actually signs off this transportation review, if I refresh the list, it should go away because it's signed off, it's done. So refresh, very important in Acela.
I'm
So
not
here's
seeing.
You're not seeing it?
I'm not seeing it as an option because I see planning as an option for auto inspection, but not public works at all.
My gosh, I was so sure, but okay. Thank you, Krista. So here's our new record. I'm going to go ahead and click the record number to open it up. This is what it looks like. Down the left is a panel, kind of light gray. I don't know if you could see the gray as much, very faint, but a light gray panel of tabs. These are effectively tabs of the record, different parts of the record. The top is a summary banner, header row, so to speak. You get to see the record number. By the way, the first 3 digits are your agency identification. They're unique to your agency alone. Then there's a year band. Then there's a 6-digit number that starts at 5 zeros and a 1 every calendar year. So January 1st of 25, you will get a new 25-00001 record for the first record of the new year that's created. There is no duplicate record numbers across modules because the last part of the record type extension is the letters. PW would make this record number 2 unique to PW, but there's also going to be a 99524 record 2 in building and in planning. But the the final piece of the record number string is the identifying record type, the letters. In Public Works, it's always PW for the Public Works tracking record, because remember, your application types are inside of the Public Works tracking record type. So to stay on track with our agenda, let's drag that back over really quick. We've talked about creating the record and the importance of the service areas. Now we're going to kind of jump in both feet here in the last kind of 40 minutes of our training, and we're going to talk about the key pieces of the Public Works record that matter most to you, at least in specific to this training. They are the numbered tabs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Each one of these tabs corresponds to a service area that we saw in that application. The 01 tab is the general intake information. Hold on, waiting for it to load here. Because I'm displaying my screen, it is remarkably slow when it moves through Teams. There it is, the 01 general. And when the tab is selected, see how it's highlighted in white and it gets that little, look to it. So this is the intake information repeated here in the upper section. This whole upper section is the intake form. But as I scroll down, there's a lot of other information I can also now record post-intake. So 1, there's a section regarding a structure. So if there's anything structure related you need to document, you have fields to do so. The total square footage of the structure, the stories, the height, number of baths and beds, any occupant, by the way, this is being fixed to occupant load. Building lot size, this does include the unit of measure. So if you're putting something in here, you might put in 1.2 acres. And if a soils report is required. Then there's some site information options for you regarding fill and impervious and just everything about the site. So is there any engineered fill? And if there's fill volume, enter the cubic yards, the impervious surface area, include the unit of measure. If it's flood hazard area, landslide hazard area, or includes a retaining wall. Then there's public works information. If there is a project number identified to this project, like a project accounting, you could enter that number here. If there's storm sewer, by the way, these are not customizable. These are models. So these are the values that you get. So if it's storm sewer, does it involve culvert, curb, dry well, gutter, storm sewer, type of sidewalk, curbside or setback, and any street improvements, AC map, fully improved gravel, partially improved, or street improvement. Now you might wonder, this is a right-of-way permit, Kelly. None of this matters. Okay, great. Don't fill any of it in. If this is strictly about right-of-way, and I filled in the top information as per the intake form, then I should go straight to the right-of-way tab. But before I do that, how the public works permit and record type works is that any of the service areas that you checked, you need to fill in information in the corresponding tab. So if I had checked all 4 of these, then I need to fill in information in all 4 tabs, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If I only filled in 2, then I need to fill those 2 in and so on. In this case, I only selected right of way in the service area. So the system is only going to look at the checkbox I checked at that corresponding tab. So in this case, I'm on the right of way tab now. Now I can include right of way details. Are there plans submitted? Are they placing new facilities in the right of way? Are they repairing or maintaining existing? Yes, they are. What type of right of way? These are modeled. These are not customizable. Construction. Is the work performed by all model? I'm going to say it's being done by a contractor. Is insurance or indemnity on file? That might only be important for franchise or whatever. Oh, wait, I'll just say it's utility company. Is there a security deposit involved? A bond? If it's a bond, I should fill in the bond type. Is it a maintenance bond, other performance, sidewalk, warranty? Otherwise, it's cash bond, a check, credit card, not applicable. If it's event oriented, right away. Is there a traffic control plan included? Are there warning device? What warning devices are there to be utilized? Cones and sawhorses or roadblocks or whatever? And is there an after-hour safety plan included? And then I have an open text right-of-way description of project field where I can write in anything up to about 1,500 characters. And you might go, why would I put a bunch of information? Whatever you put in here is going to be included on the permit. Whatever you check, whatever you fill in, whatever you don't fill in won't be included. Like bond type now won't be included. I didn't fill these in. They're not going to be included. If the right of way is utility, is it franchise agreement on file? The name of other utilities if it's a joint project. Is there a hook-on agreement on file? Direct, indirect, or other? And intent to the utility project. Now, in this case, I might say, I think I said replacement of water main, whatever. If it's easement related, what kind of easement? Use or vacation? Is it agreement related? What's the purpose of the use and vacation? Are there any special conditions? The from and to date and the daily start and end times. If it's encroachment, the from and to date and the start and end times. If in the right of way, there's system connections to infrastructure are involved in this right of way permit. Is it storm sewer connection? Is it sanitary sewer? Is it water? Yes, it's water. And I can add some sort of description. Replacing, why can't I type today? Replacing whatever I said, 10,002, linear feet of water line. Whatever you're putting, of course. So everything I put in the right in plan submitted, I might say, let's say, and I save what I entered. Saving. I could say, usually it'll say information's been saved successfully. I think we're just super slow. There. It's thinking, there it goes. So I filled in the right of way tab. Now, you guys need to see all the other tabs too. But the key here is whatever service area was checked on general info. And by the way, I can change it post intake, kind of like Kirsten asked. Can anything be changed or edited or added post intake? All of it can be. I can change the address parcel owner. I can change the contacts or add to the contacts. This is where the applicant lives, or agent for applicant, or any other contact I want to put on the record. The licensed professionals under professionals. If you needed to add them post intake, you can do so. If there were some sort of changes to the owners, and so on. Let's look at the other tabs for the other service areas. So under sidewalk, curb cut, driveway, you have some sidewalk details you can record. Sidewalk repair number of panels, the number of feet, if it includes an ADA ramp or a parklet. Curb cut, the numbers of curb cuts. If it's driveway, what category: construction, ag, commercial, industrial, other, or residential. And then the type of work on the driveway. Is it a change in access, a modification to access, new access, removal of access, or temporary access? The current driveway width in feet, length in feet, proposed length and width, and then the turnaround type is a text field. The current access surface, and then the proposed, the same values. And then any driveway description about up to 1,500 characters. If it involves a curb street, a culvert, and if it doesn't involve a culvert, what's culvert diameter, and then the site distance left, right, if there's a grade, and then what the grade percent is. I'm still in the driveway section, by the way. We already looked at right away. Let's look at erosion and sediment control, which is your grade fill site development. So I have 1,500 characters here. The nature of the activity for erosion and sediment control is at commercial, highway, industrial, multifamily, residential, other single family utilities. If construction, stormwater runoff flow to, creek, ditch, drainage, infiltration, municipal storm, other, or stream. The work site area height, depth, width, and length. Total construction project area in square feet, total disturbed in square feet, total acreage, existing surface material, surface replacement material, and backfill material. All text fields, all 6 of these. And then if there's excavation in cubic yards, imported fill in cubic yards, drainage basin. This is a custom list because this depends on your actual geography. So on the submittal form that was provided to you, there is a request for values for the drainage basin. Floodplain comes from national floodplain values. If there is dust control involved, we have one agency specifically requested this, Marion County, as an enhancement many years ago. They use a product, I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but lignin, it looks like it. Anyways, they use a dust control product, and it's the only one they allow. And so if dust control, and then what type of dust control? If it's hillside, wetlands, swale, pipe, if there's a control mechanism, homeowner association responsible, private or public. And then for those of you that have to do MS4 permitting, is the site part of a common plan of development? And then what the land disturbance is. For MS4, we do have a standard report. So if you are required to report on MS4, you need to be filling in this information on the record in order for the report to be able to report any data. It sounds silly, but I can't tell you how many tickets we get. They're like, hey, Kelly, I run the report and it's blank. It's broken. The report is broken. So I go and I do the research and I'm like, you've never filled in the information. The report's not broken. There's no data. So if you need to report, if you are an agency that is required to report for MS4, then you'll have to fill this section in, and it's on the erosion sediment control tab. Lastly is stormwater. This is the newest tab. We just added this a few months back. It says if a stormwater calculations were submitted, if civil site plans were submitted, if a percolation test result was submitted, the existing impervious being replaced, and then the proposed total impervious. This feeds stormwater permit. If you have that requirement or that need in your agency, or if you want to actually permit for that or need to. Okay, so back to our document here, just to kind of keep us on track. So we've talked extensively about the different service areas and how they kind of report back to the different tabs here. General info is intake plus much, much more now post intake. And then 2, 3, 4, and 5 all correspond each to one of the service areas. And again, the Public Works permit is going to be dynamically created based on one, everything you put in the general info tab, up here. The description of work, of course, address, parcel owner, that all the people attached will all show up on the permit. But ultimately, it's going to look at these service areas and it says, okay, right of way is checked. It's going to go to the right of way tab and it's going to look for information to include on the permit. Each one of these service areas, scroll down here, each one of these service areas can have a single report text. You were sent a submittal form for this report text standard. I think it's called standard report text. And I also sent an example of a Public Works permit with fake standard report text included, just so you could see what it looked like and how it showed up. So you all have that submittal available to you. And what I'm saying is you can add a global sidewalk, curb cut, driveway language. It will appear on every single permit where driveway, sidewalk, curb cut is checked. So it has to be global enough that it would apply to all driveway, sidewalk, curb cut permits. You can include report text for right of way. Anytime right of way is checked on the general info as a service area, it will include that global right of way text information. And again, you might go, what kind of information? I'm going to bring over Marion County again really quick here. Got to keep an eye on the clock. Let me look, see if they've, again, they're busting at the seams. They're fully utilizing our Public Works module in every way, shape, or form. Oh, let me pick an issued permit here. Oh, this is a blanket permit. So they do the stormwater blanket permit. So I don't know if they would have, I can't remember if they have any standard. I'm going to look at the permit that they issued and just see if there's anything on it. No. Oh, wait, yes, they do. So for right of way, anytime the right of way service area is checked, they include this. Look, it's a whole page. This is the standard report text. That they include, yeah, general provisions. So they pretty much include this long string of local information pursuant to this ORS, the Marion County Board of Commissioners on this day, la la la. These are the general provisions. Email start notice to the inspector at this email to start work and pouring and traffic control and pavement and so on and so on. The permit automatically expires at insurance expiration or termination, engineer certified as built, blah, 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 blah. These are the general provisions that are right of way. So they include that entire string of information as report text. So this is probably way bigger than you were thinking, but this is information that anytime a right-of-way permit or the right-of-way service area box is checked in Marion County, this general permission or provision block of information is always included as report text. Okay, like I said, Marion County is really using the system to kind of its max capacity. So that's a lot to look at, but it's a really good working example. That might be important to you. You might have something very similar to that. Same for erosion and sediment control for each service area, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can include through that report standard text submittal form. You can include some sort of global information that would apply to all stormwater, to apply to all erosion, sediment, grade and fill, to apply to all right of way, and so on. If you have any questions about those submittals following this focus training, please reach out to your assigned project manager. All right. So let's look at workflow. Workflow is the life cycle of the record from beginning to end. So Public Works record starts at the beginning. It starts at app intake. Also available on the Public Works workflow are the different available reviews, which is Public Works Development Review, Engineering Review, Transportation, Building, Planning, and Additional. Additional can be anybody and their dog that's not already listed here. Now, Eric, you had mentioned on a Public Works record where planning has to do some form of review, then you would use this planning review task on this Public Works application. I know this is right away, might not be the kind you're talking about, but you get the idea here, just generally speaking. Then I would use this planning review task and I would assign it to a planner. They would then see it in their task list that they're assigned a review on this Public Works application. They could click that assignment and go to their work and do the review. So again, for Public Works, the workflow is 100% the same as building, just if you're familiar with building, if that's helpful to you. But it's intake, review, completeness, which is an administrative task only that allows the tech or the permit staff person to make this permit ready to issue, which means collecting any final fees for issuance and getting the stamped approved plans ready to issue. Then you issue it, you inspect it, and you close it. That is the high level required task for Public Works workflow. Okay, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to close this one. So it works exactly like building. I'm not doing workflow training in this training, so please look to your super users. Workflow is kind of global Acela training that we've provided to your agency super users. So I accept the application or I don't. I decide if there's plan review involved. If I make it ready for a plan review, if it does need plan review, I can immediately issue it, or I can immediately jump to making it ready to issue to allow us an opportunity to collect issuance fees. I can collect additional information if it didn't meet intake requirements, like if they needed to have filled out a form, provided you 3 sets of plans, or any of those kinds of things. So workflow allows you to move through processing the application, making it ready for plan review, deciding who needs to plan review it of the groups I mentioned to you there, assigning the plan reviews that are required. Once all the plan reviews are approved, then it goes to completeness, make it ready to issue, collect issuance fees, issue it, inspect it, and close it. The inspection process is just a placeholder. Inspections take place over here on the inspections tab when they're scheduled. They can be scheduled by the public user, by the public. You have a submittal that allows you to say that you don't want to allow the public to schedule inspections. I'm just going to kind of put a little bug in your ear, maybe some food for thought. I would consider that strongly. And you may not do it today. There may be good reasons why you don't do it today. But I just want to kind of give you some helpful information so you can make the best decision for your agency. And that is that there are multiple ways the public can schedule inspections. Just because they schedule it for tomorrow or the next day or whatever, one, doesn't mean you have to honor it. So there's always that. You can treat it like a request. So there's that. 2 is it saves your agency volumes of time and inspection management to allow the customer to self-schedule. They have access to self-schedule through the website, through an app, and by phone or by text. So they have all kinds of easy, convenient ways to schedule that don't involve your staff having to do all the work. So just Just a important consideration. By no means do you have to allow the public to schedule inspections. Just so you know, regardless, we need to be able to create a calendar for public works. So I still have to know what days of the week you are going to be available for doing field inspections. Even if it's just back office scheduling their own inspections, I still have to create a calendar. So I know for sure what is my agency. I sent that submittal back this morning. I do need calendar days for the public works calendar. Even if you elect to not allow the public to schedule, I need to create the calendar so you can schedule yourselves. Same for planning and all the other disciplines. Just a note on that, for those of you who are still maybe working on or have filled out your inspection information submittal form, you likely have already turned it in. But I've noticed a lot of them are coming in with no information for the other module calendars for public works and planning and code. Code also needs a calendar. It's completely redacted from the public, which means it has zero presence online. It is strictly back office investigation tracking tool. But for the code officers to schedule themselves and record their field inspections in the system, there has to still be a calendar. And the submittal form that was given to all of you for that did not at that time include code. So your project manager is likely to reach out to you to ask you for days for your code calendar. Monday through Friday, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Monday, Wednesday, right? You know, whatever it is, your project manager is likely to reach out to you for a code calendar days. Because you guys started right when we were transitioning into creating our code module as a standalone module. It used to be inside of planning and it is no longer. It stands alone now. So the submittal was right in the crossover when you guys first started. So just a note on that. So inspections are scheduled here and you're moving through the workflow as you get to final inspection. Remember that inspection, again, inspection code 9995, final PW will automatically close the record when you approve the final inspection, which can be a huge time saver. So if you schedule that inspection for yourself to sign off, even if you're only going to do back office scheduling, meaning staff scheduling themselves, you still need to record your field inspections. We have copious numbers of inspection reports available to you, all shapes and forms. Who did what, how long did, how many, and you name it, all kinds of stuff on inspections. All right, let's jump back here real quick, make sure we're capturing everything. Standard comments and conditions of approval will be kind of our last piece here. So once I get into workflow, Sam is a public works person, and I am assigned a review. I'm going to go ahead and make this ready for plan review. The system's going to ask me who needs to plan review it. Which work groups need to plan review it? Who? Based on the type of work, scope of work, etc., and the application type, who needs to review it? Maybe because it's right of way, I need public works development and transportation. I'm just making it up. Transportation to review. I save my choices. Those are now the active review tasks on the record. And these should be assigned. Eric, that was kind of your starting question. If this was a planning review, I would ultimately assign it. To assign it, I simply open the task, use the assign button, and assign it. And I can assign across modules where appropriate. These reviews. So as a plans examiner, I'm doing reviews. And once I've done my review, I need to go to conditions of approval. I need to add a new condition of approval. By the way, it's condition of approval again. Don't be tempted into picking anything else. It is always condition of approval. Condition of approval, submit. Now, what kind of condition of approval is? Well, it's public works. So I select public works. Notice there is a utility, there's fire, there's floodplain. Licensing, building, code compliance, planning, and on-site. So are all different kinds of conditions of approval, otherwise known as conditions for final. If I could change this, I would change it. Conditions for final is what these are. So I say, yep, it's a public works condition of approval I want. And it's created it for me. Now I need to go in and fill it in. Need to open it, and I need to say specifically, what am I approving? Now, condition of approval it's almost mandatory. Pretty much it's mandatory in public works because the permit will include all of the details you included in the numbered tabs, but the condition of approval will be what you're approving. So, I might say approval of, right of way for construction, utility. Oh, asphalt road on Main Street. Again, I'm just being silly here. Must be repaired prior to final, whatever. Okay, you get the idea. I could write a book here. This one has tons of characters. I think like 3,000 something. So lots of room to write what you need. Formatting options, bold, italics, underlines, alignment, numbered list, bulleted list. I can add a hyperlink. So I could link them to our local website for a checklist, for final inspection. Or an informational document about what they need to do before final. I mean, whatever. But as you can imagine, for public works, these things I have heard can become fairly prescriptive. What you're approving and like why, and tied to your local code, right? And so in that way, I'm going to bring back up Marion County again. You might be adding various standard comments. Actually, let me just get into one of their records. I'm just opening a task simply so I can look at their standard comment library. Because theirs is the most extensive standard comment library we have of all participating agencies. So the group is jurisdiction that we create for you. It's a custom, whatever you want. And they've created access, standard comments, annual blanket, event. So event permit issuance. If this right away was around an event, they would likely add this standard comment to the condition of approval. And it says your event permit is being issued. Please review downloading a permit from e-permitting. They give instructions. As a condition of every event permit, the applicant must fill out a post-event report for the permitted event and send the completed form to this website. Thank you. Yes, Kirsten.
Is that something you can share so we don't have to reinvent the wheel?
Yes, I've had a lot of people ask us these. This is obviously what Marion County has locally adopted. However, a lot of it may or may not be applicable, and they have all kinds of local links and names and things like that woven into it. But it might be a good starting point, like launching, to help you get started or look. Now, do you have to go to this degree? You do not. Marion County has maximized the potential here. In fact, some of these are multiple pages. Pedestrian requirements part 1. And here's part 1, or excuse me, here's the first one, here's the second one, and so on. So they would need to include more than one part. And this is just event. They have inspection ones, access inspections, erosion.
I just updated theirs. They have several that are up to 8 parts because they're so long, but they are a lot of their local code. So if we do share them, just be cautious that you might need to just use it as a guide more than,
yeah. Huge, it'd be huge, no joke. So here's just one, storm on-site drainage. It's this whole thing. And then you get, oh, and part 2. So then, nope, it just keeps going. I just picked stormwater. That's their newest service area. I don't know what major construction, indemnity. So yeah, some of these are more than multiple parts.
I'll check with my people and get back to you.
Sure. Inspection, annual blanket access. I think some of these are multiple parts. So here's when they're permitting driveway closure, special provisions. I'm sure you guys have a lot of these, right? And so, I mean, yes, we can export this stuff from the database and, and share it out to kind of give you maybe food for thought. There's more here. Oh, wrote right away. I think there's some in here. Some of these were giant. Part 1, part 2, part 3. Okay, here's one. Irrigation. I don't know. What's irrigation crossing special provisions? Part 1, because Acela restricts the number of characters. Part 2, part 3. So if they were adding this standard comment, they'd have to add 1, 2, and 3 to complete the entire standard comment. And anything you include in the condition of approval from standard comments, I'm going to come back over here. Anything you include here, see that standard comment library is right here, available to you. You would select jurisdiction. It's not here yet because it's our fake agency, but jurisdiction, and then we would have customized everything you provided to us. The cool thing about that is you saw how much typing and details and information. They don't have to type any of that. They just select 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. It loads all 3 sections into the condition of approval, and then they just save it. And now that is included as part of the permit. Anything you put in conditions of approval, again, conditions for final. Think of it in your brain, conditions for final. They're not about plan review. Often they come out of the plan review process, however, because as the plans examiner is approving, oftentimes they're approving based on certain requirements being met at final. And where you would record those requirements for final is here in a condition of approval. Ultimately, we get down into issuance. I'm just going to go ahead and approve both of these lickety splits. We're coming up on the end of our training session. Need to get both of these approved so I can get them. We're pretending that we're approving, or you have denied in here too. Of course, denied would mean the permit doesn't get issued if you denied the plan review, but it's available. And so I get to completeness. This is ready to issue. I collect all the issuance fees or get all the issuance fees ready to go if you didn't collect them at the door. So just a note on that. If you collect fees at the door, hallelujah, it's going to probably make your life a lot easier when you're ready to issue. If you don't, or you collect a review fee at the door and issuance fees at issuance, that's fine too. Making this ready to issue gives you the opportunity to collect any outstanding fees that might be invoiced and remaining to be paid. Ready to issue automatically emails the applicant of record. Whatever you write in this box is what they will be emailed. So I might say, your plan review has been approved. And your application, is ready to issue. You would write it as it's an email. In short, this is the body of the email. The current balance amount, whatever invoice fees you had, prepared for issuance fees or anything that had been unpaid and outstanding still would be indicated there. And you would let them know, please pay issuance fees using the link provided in this email. By the way, there is a deep link directly to this application, automatically included in any email that comes out of the workflow. So use it, leverage it, refer to it, refer them into the link provided in this email to see documents I've attached for you to review. Maybe as a plans examiner, you attach a plan review letter or some sort of letter. If you load it to the documents tab, then through workflow, you can refer the applicant to use the link provided in the email to review the document you've attached, and so on. Okay, so we get through that. We submit, we get it ready to issue. And we issue it. I just need to get it issued so that we can, oops, there has to be a final inspection. We do have scripting in place that will not allow a permit to issue that does not have an approved final inspection at a bare minimum. So I'm going to go ahead and locate that 9995. There it is. And I'm going to schedule it and result it all in one fell swoop because we're rushing here right at the end of our meeting. Approve the inspection today, whoever the inspector was. I'm just going to say it was me. Any sort of inspection comment, however, this is just a straight approval. Save my inspection result. What did I do? Do I have fees? I don't think I have any fees on this record. No fees. Should let me final. Sorry, try this one more quick time. It's yelling at me. So I must be missing something somewhere because it's failing. Oh, has to be issued. Sorry, has to be issued first. My bad. I got the cart ahead of the horse here. Guess I should issue it first. Won't allow me to schedule inspection. No wonder. My fault. So I'm going to go ahead and issue the permit and submit through workflow to issue the permit. As soon as I do that, it is going to produce the permit. It says, okay, I'm going to produce a permit for this record number. Yep, that's the one I want. As soon as it loads it, I'll expand it so you all can see it. So the top section will be your agency's header information for Public Works, specifically your Public Works contact info submittal form. It includes the actual application type that was picked out of the application type list that you get to customize. The permit number, your agency's email and web address, when it was issued, the project name. Remember at the very top of the session, we did include the application type and the project name. The description of work, when it expires, you get to set this as well. The Public Works expiration is global. However, we cannot get down to the individual application type. It is the same thing in planning, by the way. It's by the record type. So all of Public Works tracking is going to expire. They won't actually expire, but they'll have an expiration date default set to whatever date kind of globally applied. You can, by the way, buy the individual application type. So maybe right-of-way permits are only good for 90 days. And so you set maybe all of Public Works to a general year as expiration, the standard expiration. Again, it won't actually expire it. It's just a date to report on. And if you do want to take advantage of our expiration process, that's a separate set of submittals that we tend to give to you post intake. But nonetheless, you set a general expiration date for the total record type. And if you need to edit the expiration date for individual application types, you can manually manage that. Like right away, you can change it from a year that was defaulted back to 90 days. And then the record will carry a 90-day expiration date if that's what you've changed it to. But let's look at the permit here real quick. We put in our Oh, look at that. We got some report problems, but I'll get those fixed. So we've got the general property information, the people attached to the record, the applicant, the owners, and so on. The general information that was collected at intake, including the service areas, and then a condition of approval that we added, the one I just added right here. And you remember Marion County's adding books worth of stuff in here. And then because I selected right of way as the service area, it pulled everything I had put in the right of way section. And then I put in some fake report text. Right of way permits must be completed within 30 days. Remove this text if the agency won't be using standard report text. Just so you can see the example of anytime it's right of way, it will say this. You know, that's just an example. And then an inspection is pended. It gives scheduling information. And if there were any fees assessed on the record, it would have a list of fees and all of the payment and fee information. And then overall, Public Works has available standard report text, all Public Works permits, and we've included call 811 before you dig. But you can edit that, expand it, change it, put a website around 811 or, you know, whatever you want to do, add more information, whatever. Okay, I think we've covered all of our training points and we're a few minutes over. I don't want to keep folks. We talked about conditions of approval and the importance of those. They are kind of the body of the permit report. So they are pretty much mandatory on Public Works permits that a condition of approval or multiple conditions of approvals are indicated on the record. The service areas, how important those are, how they dynamically just, you know, the check boxes will define what tabs of information are included or not on the permit report. Get some agencies are like, Kelly, the permit report's broken. I added a whole bunch of erosion and sediment control and it's not showing on the report, on the permit. And I go and I look at the permit or the record and they filled in information on that tab. They absolutely did, but they didn't check the service area for erosion and sediment control. So the permit doesn't look to pull that information because the checkbox wasn't indicated. So it's two-way street, right? The checkbox, fill in information on the tab. But if you fill in information on the tab and you didn't check the checkbox, that information won't be included on the permit report. The importance of maybe report standard comments, if you can find kind of a place for those globally. If not, that's fine. By the way, a lot of this submittal information, you can maybe defer today. You know, Kelly, we're not going to do standard comments today. We are not going to do report standard text. We just don't feel like we have our head around it yet. We're going to wait till maybe 3 months post go live, and then we'll submit those. You can do that. You can submit standard comments post go live. You could submit report standard text post go live. You know, if you feel like you need an opportunity to get your feet on the ground and really dig in and start using the system before you define some of those things, you are absolutely welcome to do so. And then just submit a help desk ticket after you go live to have those things configured later. Okay, any questions? I know it's a full 2 hours, so. If you think of anything following this training, please don't hesitate to reach out to your assigned project manager and ask any questions that you have at all. And we'll get those answered for you right away. I'll also be sending out for all of the focus sessions, if you're involved in any others, for any of the other modules or for advanced financial, please note, I'll be sending out some training documents for various modules to follow the sessions as well. So if there are any Public Works related or specific training documents, those will follow the focus session. Same with code, Public Works, or planning, forgive me, and the financial training. Thank you everybody for your time and for attending and for staying a few minutes over. I appreciate it greatly. Please reach out for any additional questions. We'll have your users created in short time as well for all the agency users, and you'll be able to get in and start practicing as well. Thank
Don't
you
forget
so
you
much.
recorded, Kelly.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kelly.
You bet.
Hi.
Bye, everybody.